This is the Esoteric Beat Podcast, Episode 4. Many people ask me about the secret, and I'm happy to tell you. Beats me! Today I'm going to talk about the Edusemiotics of Image, which is a paper essays on the art science of tarot. It's kind of a Deleuzian theory book, part of a series on education and tarot. And so let me talk a little bit about edusemiotics. The word edusemiotics was coined to indicate a new interdisciplinary field of inquiry that has emerged as a result of the last decade of my research in the intersection of educational philosophy and semiotics, or the science of signs. So this is of interest to me in my project, because I'm working on play and learning, and so I want to get into theory that has to do with the combination of learning and esotericism, learning and esoteric systems, and thinking about these esoteric systems as teaching systems. So that's one of the places where esotericism comes into my work on play and learning. So this is a book about learning and the tarot, right? So I'm a creator of a tarot deck. I designed the Philip K. Dick Tarot. You can find it. Wide Books is our publisher. Check out the Fool's Journey of Philip K. Dick on Wide Books. You can Google that. And I'm very interested in how the tarot can be used as, this interesting system of juggling symbols, right? And we shuffle the cards, each of which has a symbol attached to a whole, universe of cultural meanings. And, I love using it in a kind of a situationist way, as a détournement, where you're sort of, redirecting energies from the kind of expected, cultural sort of story of the spectacle, and trying to break up those linear patterns in your mind with some kind of randomness, and try to think, find new associations, get unstuck from old patterns for whatever it is that you're talking about. Whether you're going to a tarot reading for your career, your love life, your any other relationships. It's just always good to kind of just put up some symbols, see what the mind kind of gloms onto. So let's talk a little bit about semiotics. Semiotics is the study of signs and their significance. As such, it is to be considered to be of eminent importance to interdisciplinary research. Okay. I'm interested in this little note about the scholastic tradition, right? In the Middle Ages, posited a sign to be something that we can not only directly perceive, but also connect with something else, its other, by virtue of our or somebody else's experience. Semiotics exceeds the science of linguistics, the latter limited to verbal signs of words and sentences, and encompasses both natural and invented signs. Now, them's fighting words there, and I'm not going to get into this debate about what's the purview of linguistics here, but this idea that semiotics goes beyond verbal signs to to think about all these different ways of symbolizing. Is good. There's some stuff on the Greek term symbolon, which is kind of a token with two sides to it. Signs can be polysemic, a symbolic connotation with a deeper level of meaning. So lots of good kind of nuts and bolts stuff on why semiotics is going to be useful when we're trying to think about the symbolism of the tarot, right? How do these tarot cards function as signs? And so we get into images, and this also connects to a bunch of other stuff in my Esoterica research. Giordano Bruno's playing around with images and doing image magic. All of the folks, Marsilio Ficino, etc., who do image magic. Images belong to a category of signs, and from a semiotic point of view, a mental image is an icon or representation of the real world. An internal or mental image serves as a semiotic tool called the interpretant, so as to conceptualize, bring to knowledge, and create meaning for something that has been experientially perceived. An interpreter of signs connects the antecedent with its consequent by means of a specific inferential sign relation. An interpretative act gives a sign its meaning. Without a lived experience, signs remain lifeless and mute. Signs perform an instrumental function. They can serve as tools of or for human knowledge, learning, and development. The semiotic dimension is therefore implicit in the philosophy of education. So it should be obvious why semiotics is going to be of interest with this meeting of education and the tarot. So let's talk a little bit about what we have to say about tarot in here. In brief, I'm going to read. In brief, the tarot sign system consists of 78 images called arcana, the 22 major arcana, and the remaining 56 minor. The meaning of the word arcanum, singular, is this creative, but often missing or obscured element in our experiences, which is necessary to know to discover in practical life so as to become fruitful and creative in our approach to multiple life tasks, situated in the midst of experiential situations, events in our complex relationships with others when we face decisions and choices or encounter moral dilemmas. So, I love the way this theory stuff is trying to get a grip on experience, right? When I'm thinking about how tarot works, I'm thinking about how it's, sort of matching symbols with experiences and triggering our intuitions, all this good stuff. Back to the text. Therefore, by its very definition, each arcanum, each tarot image, implies a moral dimension pertaining to what John Dewey called human conduct. I'll pause for a minute and say, I'm really interested in Dewey because he said, teachers have this experience that is the basis of their knowledge about teaching and the basis of their practice, which then they reflect on and create more knowledge. So what Dewey called human conduct, if and when discovered, that is made available to consciousness, it becomes a powerful motivational force to facilitate a change for the better at our emotional, cognitive, or behavioral levels, and thus to accomplish an important ethical and educational objective. What is called a tarot layout or spread is a particular pattern of pictures that are full of rich symbolism embodying intellectual, moral, and spiritual lessons, embodying and lessons in quotes, derived from collective human experiences across times, places, and cultures. Yet the moral of these symbolic lessons, the very meaning of tarot signs, may be hiding deep in the midst of the field conceived by psychologist Carl Jung as the collective unconscious. Since the images denote archetypes of the collective unconscious or universal memory pool shared by humankind, their messages would have the same significance cross-culturally at different times. I glaze over when we get into the Jung stuff. This isn't necessarily my bailiwick, but check out this now. Learning from signs demands their reading and interpretation at the level of practical action and search for the deepest meanings of experience. This learning is, quote, marked by tarot symbolism, such as the Edusemiotics of tarot images. As pictorial artifacts, tarot images represent meaningful patterns of thoughts, affects, emotions, feelings, and behaviors, thus embodying the very values implicit in collective experiences that transcend times, places, language barriers, disparate beliefs, and cultures. I like a lot of this theorizing. I like the way tarot is being framed and kind of put into an educational context. There's some really cool stuff to come with theorists that I like. Let's get back. Learning occurs not only in formal settings such as a classroom. The concept of learning pertains to real-life human experiences and cultural events that can embody significant meanings. Cultural artifacts are capable of semiotic or communicative potential. Different objects and events in our life carry cultural, psychological, and social significance and represent symbolic text to be read and interpreted. So far, so good, right? Pretty cool theory of how tarot is helpful, right? And, it connects to these kind of philosophical questions that I always am haunted by in my religious studies career, thinking about, how do we think about experience? So two cool shout-outs to theorists real quick before we finish up. There's a nod to Kristeva's semanalysis, right? Kristeva's concept of a subject and process would have challenged a self-conscious subject as the fixed product of the traditional educational system. In my teacher training, it was emergent growth, right? We're trying to foster the development of our students. We have to think about the way the subject is in process. And then there's also a shout out to Nell Noddings, a renowned philosopher of education, one of my favorites, and founder of the Relational Ethics of Care, addresses a maternal ability to read her children as the capacity for empathy. And an instinct for survival in the course of human evolution pertaining specifically to the maternal factor. She refers to the reading process in terms of Cognitive apprehension motivated by love and accompanied by the attitude of care and empathy as the constellation of processes that connect self and other in a relation, which is as such necessarily ontologically basic. So I've exceeded my 10 minutes, but that's a quick preview of the Edusemiotics of image, a highly postmodern and awesome theoretical approach to the tarot and learning. Thanks for coming to my podcast, and please be curious.